Hi, how you doing? And welcome back to another video on the channel. What I have for you today is a wildcard video going into Game Week 28, and the aim of this team is to be one that any FPL manager can afford. So it actually comes under 100 mil if you were to buy all the players from scratch, but we will also talk about more expensive players that you could have as replacements if your budget did allow. I also think it's a pretty good team as well, which is always important. But before we get started, if you haven't already, go check out my chip strategy video where not only do I talk about my own plan for all the chips I've got left, but how you could best use your chips too. And I really do hope that you'll find it helpful. The link is in the description and at the end of this video. Anyway, let's get into the team. And as always, we're starting with the keepers. After having Raya for a good few weeks in this video, I'd be going for Kepa in this team if I was wildcarding right now. Clean sheets are hard to come by anyway, so it might make sense to put more money into the defence at this stage of the season, as they can also get you attacking returns. Bournemouth also play Ipswich and West Ham in the next four, who aren't exactly scoring a ton of goals, so the clean sheet potential is still there. I've also gone for Kelleher on the bench. I just think that there's a chance that Liverpool rotate towards the end of the season. You know, if they're winning the Premier League by a bit and they're still in the Champions League, I could see them rotating their squad for the remaining league games. You could always start Kelleher, and then if he doesn't play, you'll get Kepa's points coming off the bench anyway. So talking about, putting more money into defence, we've probably got the most expensive backline we've had in our wildcard videos all season. I have the Arsenal double up because both are guaranteed to play, and despite their attacking difficulties as a squad, I expect Arsenal to keep it tight at the back, and both of these can offer attacking threat from set pieces and corners. Most FPL teams will have one of these two, so having both would give you an edge over them and create a differential for your team. I'm also picking Gvardiol. I really think Man City will have a strong run in, and it was towards the end of last season where he got a lot of attacking returns. The bench defenders are maybe a little too expensive for the bench, but I think Newcastle have two double-ups, and that means that you're going to want Hall for them. And Wolves have Southampton, West Ham and Ipswich in the next four, which is a great run of games. So you can rotate them in as you see fit, and maybe even go for a back four in your lineup. So Salah stays as always. There's some talk about selling him for blank game week 29, but it's just not worth it. I know there'll be a lot of transfer budget on your bench, but it's only for 1 week and then you'll want him back anyway. If you've had him for a while, you'll also lose a ton of transfer value needing to buy him back again, and he's going to cost more to get him back than what you would have sold him for anyway. I think Jacob Murphy is a great pickup, to be honest, at 5.1 mil. He's only 3.9% owned, and he has more attacking returns than Gordon this year anyway. If you have the budget, you could also upgrade to Gordon just for the minutes security. But at this stage of the season, I think there's more urgency to take risks. And I also think Murphy could be the differential you need if you're looking to climb up your mini leagues. The same could be said for Jared Bowen, really. A quiet season by his standards, but he does have 3 attacking returns in his last 4 games, so it could be on for the strong end to the season. Fixtures against Everton, Wolves, Bournemouth and Southampton in the next 6 also help his case for inclusion. So Cliver has made the squad despite a little bit of a wobble from Bournemouth. He still has 4 returns in his last 5, despite losing 3 of those games, which shows his consistency on an individual level. Good fixtures against Spurs, Brentford, Ipswich, West Ham and Fulham in the next 5 mean that if you already own him, you definitely keep him. I'd also say the same if you own Semenyo as well. So rounding out the midfield, I've got Savinho. Like I said with Gvardiol, I think some Man City is a must going into the run-in. Their lineup is fairly settled as well for a change, and he's actually got 89 minutes in each of the last 4 league games, with 2 assists in that time as well. Now, it's been a bit of a hectic weekend in terms of strikers and injuries and suspensions in the FA Cup so far. So before Mateta got injured yesterday, he was in this squad. Hopefully he has a quick recovery, and if you already own him, I'd hold him for now because he was going to blank in game week 29 anyway. If he is out and you're wildcarding, I'd bring in Gakpo for game week 28 with a planned transfer to Chris Wood for blank game week 29 where Wood plays Ipswich. Now, I wouldn't normally recommend planning in a free transfer straight after a wildcard, but with Liverpool playing Southampton at home and then blanking straight after, you get the best of both worlds. It's not like you're using a free transfer to get Gakpo in for 1 week. he's just coming in on your unlimited transfers. You then get the great fixture for Nottingham Forest in 29. So as you'll be wildcarding, the rest of your team are unlikely to need changing within that time frame, which does help up to free this move. Unfortunately, Cunha's red card in the FA Cup means he'll miss the next 3 Premier League games, which is massive for FPL and for Wolves, really. They've got some big games coming up, and it's disappointing as he would have been a key player to put in this lineup. With the lack of consistent forward options and the blank game week, I think it makes for limited selection. There's not a lot of options. You could either go for a 4.5 million striker and reinvest elsewhere, or I'd go for Mamouche as a good attacking option. I think if it looks like Mateta is out for a while, you could go for Nketiah, as he'll likely take his minutes, or the same for Strand Larsen with Wolves. If Cunha's now out, Strand Larsen's probably going to come in and take that spot as well. But having those players missing from those teams, it doesn't always recreate the same attacking opportunities. I think people think that, Cunha's out, so Strand Larsen's going to get all of Cunha's goals, or Mateta's out and Nketiah's going to get all of his goals, and it just doesn't work like that. And these players, they're on the bench for a reason, because not only are they not as strong at finishing, but having those players missing from their teams because of suspension and injury, it does limit the creativity as well. But it does create an opportunity in FPL for some differential points, because Cunha will have been quite highly owned, Mateta was becoming quite highly owned, and now people are having to make some decisions. So it makes keeping Isak all the more obvious, even with the blank in 29, because there's just not a lot of choice up front. And with the double game weeks coming up for Newcastle, you definitely don't want to be getting rid. Now, when I put this team into Fantasy Football Hub, shout out to them, it came up as 87% rated. Now, that's not the highest that it's been all season. It's one of the lower ratings that we've had, and it was actually higher rated with Cunha and Mateta in, but they're not there anymore. So I do think this would be potentially rated higher once that sort of all comes through and we know whether Mateta is out for the medium to long term, because he's no longer a viable option. I also feel that data can't be relied on for everything. How many times would you have a team that was really high rated and it just didn't come through and it didn't work for you? So yeah, we always say something like 90 plus in terms of team rating is good, but I do think that this team is quite strong for the run-in, and it is something that's worth considering beyond the data. The upside is that it is cheap. 99.5 million literally means that hopefully everyone can afford it. So whether you're coming back from not playing FPL for a while, or you're looking to, you've not got the best budget in the world and you're looking to take advantage of it, I do think this team is a well-rounded team that anyone can afford. And if you do have more money, you can put more expensive players in here. You could go for a Gordon instead of a Murphy. You could go for a Foden instead of a Savinho, okay? And there are different places in this team where you can upgrade. But I do think, for me, some of the strengths is that it takes players in from the top teams. You've got 3 players from Newcastle. You've got a couple from Liverpool. You've got 3 from Man City, a couple from Arsenal. All of those teams are looking to be in the top 4 at the end of the season and will be pretty motivated to do so. So I think if you've got players from those teams, that's pretty safe. Sure, if one of those teams loses, then you might lose out on their points for the odd week. But I do think that they're reliable teams enough to get the triple and double ups in. And it also does set up really well for the running in that regard. Now, the weaknesses are that there's only 9 players for the blank as it stands. So one of those transfers can be sorted, or one of those players can be sorted by swapping Gakpo to Chris Wood. That's a great fixture for Game Week 29. And then you'll have 10 players. And for me, it's about the quality of the players. I think this wildcard doesn't set you up to need a free hit in Game Week 29. But what it does do is it gives you some great options that are playing. You could have 11 players out there. But if those 11 players don't have good fixtures, or they don't, have high scoring point potential, or they're not likely to contribute or come off the bench, then there's no point in having it. It's quality over quantity for a blank game week where there's only a few teams missing. So side thing is that I wouldn't free hit. We talk about that more in my chip video, but I think having a free hit in a double or a game where there's more teams available is really important to get that high upside for it. Another weakness could be that there's a bit of an overstacked defence. Well, we talked about this when we talked about the defenders earlier in the video. I think there's quite a lot of money there. Another way you could, reduce your bench and save money is by selling either Aït-Nouri or Hall. Let's face it, you'll probably sell Aït-Nouri, or if you didn't want the double Arsenal defence, you can sell them to a 4 million defender, and then you get another 2 million to invest elsewhere as well. So that could really help you in terms of making your starting lineup a little bit stronger. Maybe you're trying to push to get Haaland in. I think that's okay at the moment, but it does cost a lot of money, and it's important to make sure that you don't sacrifice elsewhere. So that's the team. Let me know in the comments what you think. Let me know if I've missed anybody. Do you have Cunha and Mateta, and what you're going to do? Who are the options that you're going to up front? Because it really can create some interesting discussions for the next few days. So go check out my chip video if you haven't already. We'll also be putting out a preview where I also own Cunha and Mateta, and I'll be putting out my own sort of thoughts regarding my own team, because I won't be wildcarding, so I'll be talking about how I can deal with that as well. So thank you very much for listening. Hopefully you're having a good week, and I will see you in the next one.